Hello and welcome everyone to the introduction to my new Fire Emblem Engage Let's Play. We're gonna go over all the silly rules and challenges we're doing for this playthrough, but first, let me introduce to you my co-host, the strongest countermeasure I have to all the mistakes that I'm about to make. Raisins, how's it going?
Doing very well. Thank you very much for having me on again for another Let's Play. This has been really good. I know we did a Fire Emblem Engage Let's Play already back in the day, but I'm really looking forward to this one as well, because this one I think will be very new.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. So you might wonder why we would play this game again on the channel when we already did that when we first played it when it came out. Actually, I think we both played it to get on our channels separately as well. I played it on easy mode once, and I think Raisins played it on stream a bunch of times. And then after that, we both kind of felt a bit overexposed to it. It kind of was oversaturated in our minds and probably on YouTube in general as well. So we just dropped the game completely a couple months after release, and we just haven't played it since. At least I know that I haven't. But recently, I've been watching a couple people play this game again and seeing how fun it can be to just absolutely destroy it. Kind of reminded me of how we played Three Houses together. And the playthroughs that I watched were Flashing Fire's Pacifist run and Rising Dawn's LTC Iron Man run. And both are just wildly different and very recommended watches for both. And they just kind of like, I kind of just want to play Engage again and have a couple fun things in mind. Is that like an accurate description of how you experience Engage?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like I did like 6 playthroughs in the first 6 months, I think, of the game being out. And I definitely did feel a bit overexposed to it, right? It's a great game, but when it's all you do for like 6 months, you just build up this backlog of other things you want to do. And after a certain point, it's like, okay, I'm just moving on to those other things and not playing Engage for a while. And I think it's basically been since release that I played it. Yeah. So, and it's been out for like 2.5 years now. So yeah, that like pretty accurately.
Crazy. That hurts my bones.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy.
I know. I shouldn't have said that. Everybody's like growing like big gray beards now. It's like, oh no, we can't be that. Well, but yeah, no, it's been it is a really good game. I like it a lot. Definitely ready to revisit it now after having been away for quite a while.
Okay, so I have a couple goals in mind for replaying this game. First of all, I never beat it on Maddening mode. I started it a couple of times, but I never ended up finishing it. I always was like kind of burned out on it. My first playthrough was on hard, where I was just like learning the mechanics for the first time. I did another run for fun on easy. And after that, I just kind of couldn't get through the game again on like whatever I tried, including Maddening mode, even though I've heard a lot of good things about it. And I reckon that it's a difficulty that I can both like handle and enjoy. Lots of people I've heard that have played it compared to Conquest Lunatic, and I kind of vibe with that difficulty. I've actually been playing that recently too. But a lot of people have already done and seen Maddening runs, so I wanted to make it a little more fresh. And so I've invented a couple of rules and challenges and twists to make it more interesting, both for me to play and for you to watch. Funnily enough, I think some of these challenges may be a blessing in disguise, but we'll get into that when I explain the rules. And final goal is, I think it would be cool to do a relaxed comparison with Three Houses, because I feel like whenever Engage and Three Houses are discussed online, at least in the places that I frequent, it ends up being a very toxic competition between both fans of both games. It makes sense that this happens because the games are adjacent in release order and they're on the same platform, the Switch. But they're almost polar opposites in the way that they're designed when it comes to maps and units. And I don't think it has to be that way. And I know Raisins and I like both games. We played Three Houses somewhat recently, and I think there will be a lot of room to compare both games in a chill manner. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely. I'm looking forward to the relaxed comparison for Three Houses. I think I don't necessarily mind like pitting them head to head against one another. If someone comes in and it's like, I've only got $60, which one do I buy? But like in most other circumstances, I think it's fine to be like, hey, look, they're both great games, right? Like you can enjoy one and for like all sorts of reasons, and enjoy the other for all sorts of other reasons, right? And just accept that they're both different games and they're both lots of fun. You know, like I think I do, just kind of looking at it, have a preference for Three Houses. Maybe after this playthrough, that'll change, though.
That's true.
Right? Maybe after this playthrough, Engage will just be like totally my favorite.
That's true. I do usually when I'm playing like a Fire Emblem game that I haven't played in a long while, I'm like, oh, this game is actually a lot more fun than I remember it being. And it just kind of raises on my personal list of like games that I enjoy the most. That's like always like a shifting order. And I'm glad you actually brought up the use case of like, I have $60 to buy a game with, like which one should I pick? I kind of think of this debate as a discussion between two people that just both want to be correct on the internet. You know what I mean? They just want to get their opinion out
Yeah.
there. That's kind of the end of it. Like, that's the whole intrinsic motivation that they have, and not really in terms of like, what should I buy first? Because that's like a whole different debate, I think, than which is the better game. Period. Often it tends to be like, which is the better game to start with. At which points, I mean, Engage probably not the greatest game to start with in terms of like, because it's mostly just a reference game more than anything else. So I don't know if I'd recommend it as a first experience. But Three Houses is also so wildly different than most games that I also have trouble like recommend it as like a really good game to start with. But it is a valid case. It's like, okay, which game do I buy if I can only buy one? That's fair.
As far as like for starting with, I think if someone who never played Fire Emblem before was like, which one do I have to start with? I think they would have to really, really be in love with Engage. Like looking at it, like if they saw Engage and they were just in love with it, like, oh my god, Alira is so cool, I want to play the game. Then I'm like, all right, sure, go ahead. But
yeah,
you know, like for anything else, I'd be like, I'll probably play it. Let's probably fix you up with a different game, right? Like, but yeah, no, Engage is pretty good, and I agree. It doesn't have to be about like, you know, owning the noobs on Discord or whatever, right? Like, we can quit. We can quit with those silly arguments, I think.
Of course. I mean, I know better than to think that is going to happen after this, and I'm not going to try to force this into every episode of like, well, let's compare this whole episode to Three Houses. Like, okay, is it whenever it comes up?
Yeah, no,
it's
come
good.
on.
It's good to have it brought up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the rules of what we're actually doing. So, as I said, we're playing on Maddening mode. I'm forced to play on fixed mode because my copy on the Switch 1, by the way, hasn't beaten Maddening mode yet, so I can't switch to the non-fixed mode, which is unlocked after your first playthrough. That's okay. I could emulate it theoretically, but last time I tried, which to be fair is ages ago, it didn't really go very well, and I also just like playing on original hardware for this game, so I think I'm good with it. But the other rule that I'm doing that might be a little more intrusive into the playthrough is units cannot use the same phone for 2 consecutive maps. Usually, I just have one unit pick up their phone.
It's fine. It just was literally sitting on a crack in the table, and so it like amplified the vibration.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so usually a unit can... Well, I usually have a unit that just swap emblems a lot until I find one that they work well with, and I just up their bond rank with them. Maybe I find like a skill that I think synergizes well with their stats or their playstyle. And once I find one, I just kind of keep it that way. But this rule basically says you can't do that. Like, you can find one combo that works, but in order for a unit to have an emblem every map that you kind of fight with, you kind of need 2 and alternate them. Or you can just use a different one every map, whatever you think is best for that particular unit. So this will basically mix up the way that I think a lot of people, including me, use emblems. But I've heard that Raisins actually thinks that this is actually like the opposite of a challenge. This is actually going to help me in the playthrough, right? This is actually a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, the emblems, kind of like battalions in Three Houses, you know, you can move them around as much as you want, except like during the chapter itself, right? So I'm like, if you could trade command the emblems, I think I probably would too. But
oh yeah,
like, you know, you had that video about the trade command being so powerful, how you don't have to have an item locked to a unit. The same thing is true of emblems. And very often, what will happen is a map will have one type of enemy, or your unit will have like one kind of job on one map, and then might need a completely different set of stats or a completely different set of abilities on another. And so swapping out the emblems, or at least in preps menu, rethinking whether or not, hey, is the emblem I have on them the most appropriate one? Is there maybe one that's better? Or is this emblem better suited on someone else? At the very least, thinking about that at the start of every map is typically very helpful. And I think I tend to swap the emblem more often than not whenever I was playing the game. I do remember that being a thing. So now the fact that it is like we're forced to do it still does mean it's like it's a rule against us, but I think it does help move into the correct direction of like, let's think about reallocating the emblems, moving them around, seeing if there's something better than what we've currently got, because I think that is a generally stronger way to play. There probably shouldn't be any weird moments where it's like, oh, 2 maps from now this emblem's going to be super good, so we got to have like, you know, this one on this. Like, I don't think it's going to get that deep, right? But I think for the most part, getting in a habit of swapping emblems will typically make your play a lot stronger. And so I think this will be helpful for like just strategizing and getting better at like preps menu as well.
Do you think that we'll get in trouble? Well, not in trouble. Do you think it will maybe slightly hurt us that we have to swap emblems, and therefore we have to invest more bond fragments into having our units at a higher bond level with the emblems if we do this? Or do you think it's cheap enough that it doesn't matter?
I think there are ways around it. For one, it is pretty cheap. Unless you want to be like really ambitious, like getting speed +5 on everybody, right? Like that can add up really quick. I typically find I'm able to stay like exactly within the bond fragment budget, and there are also other things you can do in order to like get more bond fragments as well. So, and I think a couple of those will come up during the playthrough, including perhaps the very next slide. So,
yeah, fair enough. We'll get into that. I will forget what I was going to say. Let's go to the next slide. I'll pick it up along the way. Okay, so there are a lot of like optional features and things that I had to think about for Engage, and one of them is of course the DLC that came out ever since I played the game for the first time. And when we did 3 houses, I said, okay, I'm just gonna use this as an opportunity to show off characters, the Ashen Wolves, that I didn't have the opportunity to do so the first times around that I played the game. But for this one, that wasn't really what I wanted. Like, I kind of wanted to play the game in a fresh way, but not necessarily introduce the DLC, because I think DLC can be really intrusive towards the game to the point where it kind of trivializes it. So I came up with this set of rules where I said, okay, I want to show them off for like one map, each DLC bracelet. So like the house's leaders, Tiki, Veronica, Hector, Crom, whatever. I'll try to use them for exactly one map and no more than that. And I will not use any other DLC content. I think that includes the, what's it called? The thing where you dive into the well, basically, and go to the other world. I forgot what it's called.
The Felxenologue.
Felxenologue, yes. We did play that on stream when it first came out, and it was a blast, but I'm not doing it again for this playthrough for many, many reasons, including time. And I think there's some DLC additions in the game that I almost can't skip, or that would just be sitting in convoy doing nothing, like the Heroes editions. I'm probably okay with using those. I think you get some free steel weapons as well. I'm okay with using those. I think I'm going to probably check up a guide I have somewhere that would discard or get rid of the extra like gold and items that I get through the DLC patches. It's kind of a mess, but basically what I want is to, just like with 3 houses, inspire people to play the game again. And I don't want them to be discouraged by the playthrough because I'm using DLC like every map. Like, I would like to do strategies that work even if you don't have the DLC. So I'm going to try to replicate that experience as closely as possible. Particularly, for example, an idea that Raisins gave me was when you lose all the emblems somewhere in the game, I'm not going to like whip out the bracelets. I think that would be very silly to do. So that is something, for example, that I think is very easy. I'm just not going to do that. So I don't know. I haven't booted up the game at all since I planned this. But that's the kind of thing I'm going to try to do, and probably iron out a little bit more as we go along. I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I actually thought this slide would answer the previous question about bond fragments, because the 5,000 bond fragments, I think, is something that the free DLC gives you.
Oh, right.
But if it sounds like you're going to discard those resources, then I guess the 5k bond fragments are going to go.
Probably.
I'll
find a way to get rid of them.
Yeah, maybe you do. Maybe you keep them. Are you using the well like regularly? Like the well that you can like deposit items into and can spit things out?
That's a good question, actually. I think that's like one of the most important things that I just completely overlooked until like 5 minutes ago. I do not know.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, but then I saw the slide. I was like, we'll just answer it here. So.
Yeah, I think the well was like patched into the game, but not included in the paid DLC. So in terms of that, it's free game, but I kind of don't want to use it. You know what I mean? I also like the one thing I don't like about it is that it was added to the game later. The second thing I don't like about it is that it's random what you get. So it's very, very hard to replicate the results that you get from there. That's why I don't really like the well. I want to do something in the middle of, I'm going to reset until I get rewarp staves, and I'm just using what I get on average. Like something in between that, probably. I don't know. This is why I don't like features like this. They make me, they force me to like limit my own what I can do. I'll probably try to minimize the use, unless it's like, okay, I'm like 1 SP away from getting this skill, something like that.
Yeah, I gotta like hang on to the books maybe or something. It's like, okay, come on, just let me have like the one. Just let me round up.
Let me have one treat. just one more speed point. Let me double here, please. Just let me have speed +3 from Lin or something.
Yeah. We'll use the SP books to just round up, right? Whatever you think is fair.
Something like that. Yeah. This is something I could have explored this by playing the game again, but I want to play the game completely fresh again. So yeah, couldn't. All right, let's put a pin on it for later, I guess.
I think we will revisit the topic at some point later. Like maybe whenever we see the well for the first time, we'll like actually talk about it more in detail.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to have planning episodes like we had in Three Houses with the Monastery, because we legit filled hours and hours and hours of time just talking about shit and planning stuff in spreadsheets, and I would like to do that again. I don't know if this game has a level of depth required for that, but sounds like with just discussions like this, we will be able to talk for a full hour about shit, so probably. Probably. Yeah. Alright, next rule is about Vander. He's in the thumbnail for a reason. I want to deploy Vander for every map, and I want him to use every emblem at least once. How bad can it be? Why? So, Vander gets a lot of flack from fans who think he's a terrible Jagan who falls off super quick due to his middling bases and terrible growths. So, that's why I asked myself, how bad can it be to use this unit all game long? How hard is it to fix a unit with these stats? Now, there are more tools available in this game than in any other to fix problems like this, and I'm just curious finding out the answer to the question, what can we do to make this better? I know for a fact that there are builds that let him one-on KO enemies in mid-game when you're like in the Solm arc, so I want to do that, like for one, I definitely want to do that, but I'm also just going to deploy him every map we have and try to have him do something different for every map, because I know there are tasks you can do with the emblems that don't require any stats. From the top of my head, something like Byleth having the quad refresh from his, I think it's engage move basically, and Micaiah just doing healing duty. That wouldn't be very interesting. It is probably something I'm going to have him do at least once, because it is something he can do, and I wanted to use every emblem at least once. But I also want to like see, okay, can I make Vander one-round stuff without using the engage move? Or can I make Vander do some kind of utility move? It's try to see what you can do with a unit that probably has the worst stats in the game. I don't know if he's like competitive with Brunei or what. But yeah, I think if I can make this unit work, I can make any unit work is kind of the idea here. And I also want to see like how badly does he fall off, because he does start with better stats than almost everyone else. And from my memories in hard and easy, there's like a point where you ditch him. I think it's like around somewhere between chapter 6 and chapter 10 or 11 is where most people are like, okay, I'm going to stop fielding Vander. And I want to see when is that point when I actually know what I'm doing, when I have someone with me that knows what he's doing, a maddening mode. When is the point where it doesn't feel optimal to use him anymore, and can you still get use out of this? So basically, a lot of research into Vander, the quote-unquote worst Jagan ever. So what do you think the prospects of Xander will be in this playthrough?
The worst Jagan ever. Yeah, no. I think it should be pretty good. If you told me to predict like right now, when it's the first chapter where we're like gonna look at each other and just be honest and say like, okay, I think if it weren't for this rule, we would have not deployed Vander, right? Mm-hmm. Probably the first time that's gonna happen is maybe like chapter 12 or 13, I think, and then maybe around like chapter, I think like 20 or 22 for sure, we're gonna be like, okay, what's this guy doing? Like we gotta maybe be creative to find something for this guy to do. Which the thing is like, you know, if you take a unit and you deploy them in chapter, you know, prologue through 10, that doesn't mean that they were a bad unit, by the way.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, you know, do you use Linden? Because I only deploy him from chapters 19 through 26. Okay, like that's only 7 chapters. I use Vander for more than that, so got to be better, right? So, like, I don't know. I like Vander. I do think he tends to fall off a little bit. I think a lot of units tend to fall off, but like I don't think that makes them horrible or awful or rotten. I just think like, I don't know, some units fall off, and I'm fine to bench a unit for a better one. But that's also just like kind of my play style, my outlook. I think you maybe picked up some of this when we were playing Three Houses. I'm totally fine using a unit a bunch and then just dropping them completely.
Yes.
So this fact about Vander never bothered me. I can totally sympathize with people who want to add a unit to the team and use them every single chapter, why they would be highly unattractive to Vander and want to undeploy him ASAP. Right? But I think at this playthrough, we're going to have a lot of fun deploying Vander even very late to see what exactly he can get up to.
Yes.
And science out, okay, when for real would we rather do anything else than deploy this guy? But we'll see.
Yeah, the reason I was inspired to do this, one of the reasons, is that in a lot of playthroughs for like efficient playthroughs or LTCs or whatever that I just kind of spot every now and then, is Vander put in a lot of work even later in that lifespan. Like maybe not chapter 20, but like chapter 12-ish. He would just go up to the boss and murder them with like the secret as his emblem or something like that. I was like, okay, that's a lot better than most people give him credit for. A lot of people were benching him earlier from what I know for like talking to people. So I wonder what's causing this discrepancy. Is it because people looked into the game more and figured out more stuff to do with Vander? Or is it a thing where when you're playing efficient, you're lower on resources, so Vander's relatively higher bases and free promoted class make him better. Like, I'm just curious what makes him work for them but not for others. And I'm also wondering, like, why is it that he drew so much more ire than, for example, I think a lot of people like FE6 Marcus a lot because he's like the perfect Jagan for them. He doesn't kill things in hard mode. He sets up kills for others, and people love that about him. I feel like Vander, it probably has a lot of similarities with him. Like, he's clearly made to do roughly the same thing, but a lot of people don't call Marcus terrible. They say he falls off, but they still think he's good. Whereas with Vander, a lot of people just think he's outright bad, even though, like you said, he is useful for at least the first 10 chapters. Like, do you think there's proper parallels between Vander and Marcus there? Or do you think there's like a crucial difference?
Yeah, I think everything you said about the two units is like, it does make sense, and I do agree that on the surface it might seem strange that, like, I've seen a lot of people come out about Marcus and FE6 and say, oh, he falls off, but he's still like one of the better units of the game, and then people have a different opinion about Vander. I think maybe an explanation for that is these are just two different groups of people talking about it. Like the Nintendo Switch FE players, this might just be like kind of their first exposure to a Jagan, and so they get like a bit of whiplash to the concept of like, oh, what's the point of this unit who just like falls off or whatever, and maybe this is just like their first time experiencing it, right? And I'm not sitting here to say like, oh, look at these noobs who don't know what's going on. It's just a very unintuitive concept for a lot of RPG gamers and strategy gamers, right? Is that there's this unit who at some point you really want them off your team. You know, that's just not that's just not a very intuitive concept for a lot of people. And I don't want to go I don't want to go into like too much detail about the reputation of a unit, because it's very hard to prove what I have and haven't seen people say, right? Like, I guess you have to join every single Discord I've been in and then like look at all of my entire message history and see what I've read. But it's very
anecdotal, right?
Yeah, it's very anecdotal, and also it's hard to prove. I mean, who knows if I've only seen one story and I'm just like blowing it up like it was all I've ever seen. But that said, I have definitely seen a lot of people slandering Vander. I've seen a lot of people really enjoying him as well. But yeah, I have certainly seen a lot of that. I think like because FE6 is such an old game, I think people, and also the fact that FE6 was never released in English, I think there's just a sort of like barrier that you have to cross. Like, you have to be at least a little bit committed to Fire Emblem and have looked up stuff about it on the internet in order to like play FE6 to begin with, really, right? And during that time, you probably get exposed to people telling you about like how Jagans are good and why. Whereas the Vander, that might not be such a thing. I guess to return back to the Vander versus FE6 Marcus like reputation thing, I do think that because Vander was just given to people in a game in English, there are some people who just got this unit, and this is the first time that they've gotten this kind of unit, and they didn't know what to think. So
I see.
That's my theory, at least.
Yeah, I think that's a valid explanation. I didn't think of it could just be entirely different people or a largely different group of people. My thought was it was because Marcus maybe is further above your units when he's first around, whereas Vander might be closer. I don't know if that's true, but that could be it. Or because Vander doesn't seem to move as far as Marcus does compared to other people, because the tile difference feels a lot smaller between them due to Engage's lower movement value. Or maybe because Marcus has like very obvious uses outside of combat, be it rescuing and dropping, or maybe the way that FE6 hard mode works is kind of incentivizes a unit like Marcus more. Maybe it's a thing with emblems. I like all kinds of like gameplay related explanation, but I kind of like your people-based explanation, if you will.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so sorry, are you ready to move on? Because if you had something to say, it's fair.
I was just gonna say I actually kind of wish you'd brought up some of those in detail, because I really like those explanations too. Things you brought up, so
that's fair. I think we'll have plenty of opportunities to discuss those when we, for example, we get the Vantage unit analysis in the game, because I do want to talk about the characters when we're actually playing, and
oh yeah, true.
Like when we're on the map, or even when we're in the Somnia, stuff like that. When we're figuring out what emblem do we put on this guy, I think there's plenty of material there.
And I feel like the unit analysis normally like get a unit and we talk about them for like 2 to 8 minutes or something, but I think Vander is kind of like a very ongoing thing.
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah, it's hard to analyze someone before you actually use them in this case, especially for me, because I haven't used this guy or anyone in this game in ages. Just kind of
true.
I just kind of have my memories from the past for like 2 years ago, and that's it. But I made a slide for them anyway. It looks like a tier list, but it's not. Trust me. in Three Houses, we actually spent a very big portion of the introduction talking about the team that I had planned in some detail and the things I wanted to do with them. But I have much less knowledge of this game than I did in Three Houses, even before I replayed it with you and learned a lot more. So I just made a little list of the units from this game. This is all the non-DLC characters that are in there, and what I've done with them in the past, if I've done anything with them, and whether I'm going to use them or not. And since one of the goals is to try and stay fresh, I'm going to try to avoid units that I've already used in detail. So Alir, just to start from the top here real quick and just kind of walk through them. Alir I'm going to use. I don't really have a choice in the matter. He's force deployed every time. I'm just going to really shoot myself in the foot if I don't use him. I don't know whether I'm going to male or female yet. Maybe there's an optimization there. Seedall, kind of the same story. He would re-enable one of my units, kind of throwing if I don't use him. Vander, enough said. So in that first yellow tier, have used HM+, aka I've already used them in a harbor playthrough. So I used all these units in varying degrees in our first playthrough, except for a couple. I tried Alfred in a Maddening run that I didn't finish, and I found that he was very reliant on like using one emblem, Sigurd, for pretty much the entire time in the early game to reach like a specific benchmark, and I didn't really get there, so he felt kind of bad. And I don't really want to try him again because there's other units I want to try. So I'm probably not going to like focus fire Sigurd into Alfred. Also because the emblem rule just kind of disqualifies that option. So probably no Alfred. Etier was the star of our playthrough, so she probably can't be the star of another one. Saline, Louis, Chloe, Yunaka, Diamant, and honestly Zelkov were all used like varying degrees in that first playthrough, so they're kind of like, I'm probably forced to use them because the early game is limiting in what like units you can even bring. Like you get like, say 12 units, you deploy 10 of them, like what choice do I have? But at some point they'll probably hit the bench. And then Fogado is kind of like that. I kind of wanted to put Fogado in the just really good category because there's a couple of things he does really well, and he's more like a pre-built character than a growth project like the other guys in this tier. But again, kind of already done it in a playthrough, so I just kind of said, all right, probably not using this guy for any more than I feel like I'm quote-unquote required to. Then below that is a bunch of units that I've used in my easy mode playthrough. That was a stream series that I did where it was like right after I lost my channel to Elon Musk style hackers that took over my channel for a bit.
That's what EM stands for, right?
Yes, that's easy. EM stands for easy mode. Yeah, that's Elon Musk. Yes, very good, actually, very astute observation. So I used those units in that easy mode playthrough because they're arguably worse units than most others. I mean, I can't judge because I haven't used them in ages, but I know that they're generally considered worse than a lot of the other units. So I used them in that playthrough because I thought I wouldn't maybe get a chance to use them again on Maddening. That's why they're there. Probably don't think they will fit on Maddening, but maybe they'll find a place. I don't know. And then there's a couple units in the green tier want to try that I'm curious about trying for various reasons. Technically, I've used Gold Mary and Amber a little bit in some of the playthroughs I just mentioned earlier, but I'm fine with using them again for sure because I don't think I use them enough to really know a lot about them. And the rest, I mean, it's not a surprise that they're mostly units that are considered like below par or mostly experienced player base, so I don't know if I have room for all of them, but they are all units that I'm curious about in some degree, and they'll influence my decision on whether to use them. We can't really do it based on like level up RNG because of fixed mode, so they will always turn out the same, but I don't know, maybe there's a unit that will pop off anyway unexpectedly, and I'll just put them on the team permanently. I don't know yet. Is there any of these that you'd be curious to see, Raisins?
I'm looking at the ones that like probably the one in this list I have the least experience with is like Jean. Of the units in this tier, I assume we're still in like the want to try tier.
Yes.
I think a lot of these units I like kind of already have an opinion on, and there's actually like a very wide variety of like units who I think very highly of and units who I think very lowly of in this tier. Like you've kind of picked units from across the entire spectrum. And then there's Jean, who I like mostly don't know anything about whatsoever. It just wasn't really attracted to that kind of unit in my own type of play. I just kind of like did other things, but hey, if he ends up being on the team and we try this or that, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, same. And then lastly, or semi-lastly, the former to lastly, there is the just really good tier. These are units that, I mean, I think I used all of these in varying degrees in other playthroughs, just because, I mean, you can not use them, but again, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot by not doing so. And especially if you're like trying to mix up deployments, and bond rings. Sometimes I think you gotta bring some stronger people. And since this is engaged and there's like 10,000 different ways to build units, I think I can use these without getting too bored. And maybe sometimes to make Vander work or to make one of the other wanna-try units work. It's nice to have the support of a unit that's just ridiculously, insanely good. And I know all these units have really good bases or some kind of really good utility like Hortensia that I can make use of in a couple chapters. They might not become permanent staples, they might, but I'm just saying I'm not banning them from the playthrough, but I have used them all before and I'm not necessarily looking to make them mainstays unless I feel like I want to have one or two of them to bolster up my roster a little bit, because I've seen some of these units work in the aforementioned like Pacifist and Iron Man LTCs, and like, boy, I do really like using good units sometimes. They are really good like that. So I kind of do want to use like one or two of them every now and then. I like, I want to use these units. They're so good, but I don't want to use them all.
Yeah, these units are really good. Yeah, for the sake of making this, you know, not the most innovative engaged playthrough ever, right? With like Lin-Ring on Ivy and we're deploying Kagetsu. Like, yeah. Like, we're kind of pre-identifying these units as being like, guys, we know that they're really good. And so anytime that we're not deploying these units, it's to it's to try something new, basically, right? Like, we don't need to be told like, hey, these units are really good. We know, but we just want to try new things in this game. So we're kind of like pre-allocating these units for like, these are for the tough jobs. We're gonna pull these out when the going gets rough if we feel like it.
Yes. And then the last two, I promise you, I don't think Saphir is as bad as Bunei is. I think Bunei is that bad. I think Saphir probably fits in one to try, but that would cause a 2-line tier list maker, and I didn't want that, so that's why she's there. I don't know if I want to use her like super desperately or anything, but I didn't think she fit in just really good. I don't remember using her before, so I wasn't sure where to put her in the other tiers. Where would you put her if you had to put her in one of the other categories without causing a line break?
It seems really like weird to put her in like the just really good tier, because she's obviously not as good as the units in that tier. But
yeah,
in every playthrough, I've like deployed Saphir in like every single chapter after her join chapter. So I get her, and I'm just like, hey, this unit's all right. Like,
okay, I might just end up on the team then, or at least
she's been pretty good for me. Like, yeah. I like Saphir a lot. I don't know, she's pretty cool.
She does seem fine. Okay. And, well, that's the plan. Just like in Three Houses, I don't have, like, my team set in stone. Like, even though that one was more meticulously planned out, we did end up doing things slightly differently than we had planned. And I'm sure that, in the end, the team that we use in this playthrough will be a mix of things that I want to try, things I didn't want to use again, but ended up doing so anyway. Like, I'm going to go back on my word several times, but this is just to give you an idea of what I'm looking forward to do. If you have anything specific that you would like me to do, you're free to drop it in the comments. Something I will note right here before I forget is that I do pre-record episodes a little bit ahead of schedule when I can. So by the time that you're seeing this, or like episode 1, chances are we are like 3 to 4 episodes ahead, depending on our schedules. So I might not see it immediately. Like, you might have to wait a couple episodes for that lag to catch up and me actually seeing the comments. But I religiously read my own comments, especially on the first couple episodes. I know Raisin's like reading my comments every now and then, so we'll see it. It just might not be immediately visible.
Yeah, so if you have some like banger strat for chapter 2, you're gonna have to like just be
get your time machine ready.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, there's no other way to do it.
I think I can get through chapters 1 and 2 just fine. Don't worry about it.
Probably we can, yeah. So those are probably in the same episode, in fact. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the first episode will probably encompass, I think this game is a prologue, and then basically like up until the Mara dies. Spoilers, probably-ish. And then chapter 3.
Oh my gosh.
Chapter 3 is like
spoilers.
Chapter 3 already feels like a bit of a real chapter in this game, I think. So probably the first one will go like up to that, right up to that point, I think.
Makes sense, yeah.
And then we'll see if like Somnial episodes have to be separate ones, or if we can combine them. I remember in the initial playthrough, we had to like go through every facility and like read all the text and read the story, so things ended up being very long. Being able to skip all that this time, or like go through it a little faster, will probably mean that we can combine them sometimes. But if planning sessions end up being as interesting as in Three Houses, where I would like pull up the enemy stats and compare them to like the options we have, then they might actually have to be separate episodes so that we can I can take my time prepping them off screen after a long discussion about what benchmarks to reach, what emblems to put on where, what bond ranks to raise in the arena, stuff like that, basically. That is the plan. That's basically it for this presentation. I hope everything that I explained was clear, and if not, hopefully we can clear it up in the next couple episodes. I'm looking forward to the adventure. I'm looking forward to touching Fire Emblem Engage again.
Yeah, looks like it'll be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.